Hello everyone! Today is the day. Today I'm going to reveal the redesigns of my first magical girl group. I know many of you have been looking forward to it. Every now and then I still receive comments asking for this video to come out, and I have to admit I was having a bit of trouble with redesigning these girls, because the first designs weren't all that good. To be fair, they were basically first concepts, so a lot had to be fixed. I was having trouble designing them in a way where they had better, more coherent designs that worked well together, but also weren't so different from the original that they became unrecognizable. I think I was able to do it, but you'll be the judge of that. During this video I'll talk about changes to their design, but also changes to their importance in the story, and I'll also talk a bit of trivia on them. I also tried to write their name in Japanese, since they have Japanese names, but I don't know Japanese. I'm in the process, but I still don't know Japanese. So if you find a mistake, I'm sorry, and also feel free to comment so that I can try to fix it. And now, let's get to it. Let's start with Ayumi. Ayumi's design didn't change all that much. I've refined it by giving her skirt more detail so that the idea of her skirt being a wave with the lace being the seafoam read better. I also gave her footwear, finally. Her hair was probably the thing that changed the most. Instead of 4 buns, I gave her 2 pointy buns, and I've also changed her hair color. At first she was going to keep her signature dark blue hair, but when I was coloring she started to look familiar. Too familiar. And not in a good way. She was starting to look more and more like Mint from Tokyo Mew Mew. I didn't want that, so I ended up changing her hair to a pinkish ginger color. This change of color ended up being a pretty good idea since it breaks the monotony of her previous all-blue color palette. Her personality was the thing that changed the most, I think. She used to be your generic optimistic main character, but now she has a little more thought put into her. In this iteration of Ayumi, she's a very determined and ambitious girl that loves her job as a magical girl, and also has a side hustle as a streamer. She is very intelligent and loves puzzles. She's one of those people that owns at least 5 Rubik's Cubes. She also loves jokes and puns, and she often jokes around. Jokes are one of her coping mechanisms, so she tends to joke even in serious situations. She tends to tease her teammates, especially her sister. She's also very caring, although she doesn't show it very often. And her weapon is a trident. I feel like it's important to mention that right now, I feel like this team of magical girls isn't fit to be the main group of the story. I believe that the best group to lead the story is Star Knights, my space magical girl group. Because of all these characters, the Star Knights are the ones with the most story potential. This doesn't mean the legendary quintet will just disappear. They'll still appear in the story, they just won't be as important as they used to be. Also, their story is still very much a work in progress. There is a lot of things that I haven't decided yet, so please be patient. Next up, Ayumi's twin sister Himari. Himari's original design read as a ballerina and just as a ballerina. Even in the first video I was having issues with this. She was probably the girl I spent the most time working on, and I think it paid off because she now reads more as a magical girl. I changed her hair. Her original art style was not bad, but I wanted to give her a more interesting hairstyle, so I gave her an asymmetrical haircut. And I also gave her a braid that works as a hairband, and it's also a callback to her original civilian design. One thing that I really wanted to keep in her magical girl form was the bow she had on the back of her dress that is tied so many times that it looks like wings. I think that was the most interesting part of her original design, so I kept it. This time around I tried to give her a more interesting pose that would reflect her personality better. Himari is a very creative girl that loves to dance. Like most artists, she is her worst critic. She isn't very confident, so she tends to dance when no one is watching. She's very sweet and shy, very devoted to her team and loyal to a fault. Himari and Ayumi get along really well, so much so that they are pretty much inseparable, with Himari often following her sister's lead. I decided that her weapon would be a fan. One issue that I have with the original designs is that they didn't really go together. They just didn't look like they were a team. So this time I decided to give a few details to all the designs so that they went together a lot better. So they all have gold trim, they all have bows on their feet, they all have gloves, with the exception of Ayumi, and they all have petal-like details in their outfits. In the case of Ayumi, it's the shape of her dress's neckline. In the case of Himari's, it's the bottom of her top that looks like a flower. And now let's talk about the leader of the gang, Miyuki. Miyuki's design changed a little bit. I'd say she was probably the one that changed the least, since I was pretty sure about her character since the beginning. Her changes were mainly her hairstyle. Now she doesn't have a bonnet, and her dreads are tied up in a bun with a green bow. Her jacket now has short puffy sleeves, and the trim of the dress resembles more of a flower. She now has a skirt, which I feel is more appropriate. She kept her natural hair color, although I did experiment changing it to green. At the end of the day, I felt like it was too much green and her brown hair would be a nice break. Even so, she kept the green eyeliner. No particular reason, I just think it looks really good on her. She also has a bow tie. This is a bow, that is also a tie. She had this accessory in her first design as well, but for some reason I decided to color the bow and the tie in different colors. Now both pieces are the same color. When it comes to personality, she's still Miyuki, strict, impatient, intelligent, and inflexible. She takes everything seriously and puts all her effort into being the best guardian. She gets along with Himari well enough, they both admire each other's talent and they respect each other. Ayumi and Miyuki have a bit of a rivalry and friendly competition between the two of them, since their personalities are so different from one another. They still share a lot of interests, like puzzles and gaming, for example. They often bond over that. Ayumi's friendship isn't perfect, but they still respect one another. Ayumi will never be caught saying it, but she agrees that Miyuki is the best leader they could ever get. Her weapon is a rapier, which is basically the musketeer's sword. On to Gin. Gin is an interesting case, because she was the second one that I spent the most time on. Gin's original magical girl design was kinda boring. It was intentionally boring, because at the time I thought it would be funny if the most decorake girl of the group was the one with the most toned down dress. Since then, I've changed my mind and decided that she should be able to have all the decorations she would want to have. Not so many that it would be a nightmare to draw over and over again, but enough to the point that you could see that she's more extroverted and into fashion compared to the rest of her team. She has flowers in her hair, stars painted on her face, puffy sleeves, and a big yellow bow, an adorable vest, once again with curved seams that look like petals, and a very puffy skirt, as puffy as Ayumi's, if not more. Her personality suffered a few changes, but not many. She's still a very happy and optimistic girl that loves fashion, but now she has an additional interest in the occult, ghosts, and scary stories. Other than that, she's still the social butterfly that gets along with everyone. Gin and Himari are best friends. They share interests like fashion and the arts. Himari would love to have Gin's confidence and fashion sense, and Gin really loves to support her friend in her fashion journey. Gin and Miyuki also get along really well. Gin is the happiest and sweetest of the team, so they didn't expect a lot from her, but she's undeniably powerful and she fights really well, so Miyuki is always really impressed by her. Miyuki and Gin often train together. Ayumi and Gin are also good friends, since their personalities are really similar. I was asked a while back if my magical girl story still happens in the academy, and if so, do the Star Knights and the Legendary Quintet know each other? The answer is yes. In fact, all the members in the Legendary Quintet are 18, much like Mari and Jasper, meaning that they all go to the same classes. These two teams get along really well and tend to team up every now and then. And yes, Lily, Ayumi, Gin, Jasper, and Akko form a really nice group of friends that is exceptionally prone to disaster when unsupervised by the other members of the teams. I decided that Gin's weapon would be a hammer. And finally, Akko. Akko was easily the girl I had originally spent the least time on, and it shows. Her civilian design was okay, but her magical girl design was just terrible. I didn't like it, even at the time, and I feel like it was because I hadn't figured out how I wanted Akko to be. Akko now is a very active and sporty person. In fact, she is the captain of the academy's volleyball team. She's also a hopeless romantic, always crushing on someone. I also decided that her favorite aesthetic would probably be lovecore, so I imagine her civilian form only wearing red and pink, as well as a lot of hearts. In fact, this love for heart accessories transferred to her magical girl design as well, since she has her heart-shaped hair clip. Speaking of hair, I also changed her hair color. She used to have bright red hair with a yellow streak. At the time, this looked really cool to me. However, one day I looked at it and thought, ketchup and mustard, and at that point I knew I had to change it. So she's blonde now. Her cape is gone, but I kept her hood as a callback to her original theme, Little Red Riding Hood. Her magical girl form is much simpler now. I really tried my best to match her with her other teammates by giving her bows as well as continuing the flower motif of her team's outfit. The boots could be better executed, but overall it's a much better and cleaner design. Akko's weapon would be an axe. When it comes to relationships, Ayumi is her best friend without a doubt. She respects Himari, she headbutts with Miyuki quite a bit since they have such different personalities, and Gin is probably one of her favorite people in the whole world. And with that, we got to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me what you think about the new designs in the comments. Consider leaving a like and subscribing if you enjoyed the video. Remember that I stream almost every Saturday and you're welcome to join in. And until next time, bye!